Hey now, cats, we're back again this week on the Balls from Ellwood show. I couldn't be more happy with the way things have been going. We got some incredible guests lately. We've been getting some incredible views lately, so I just want to thank all you personally. It's been really, really great. If you're just tuning in for the first time or the 100th time, I'm Balls. This is my ride or die, Xtina.
Woo-hoo! Riding and dying. I mean, what?
What are we all about, Xtina? Tell the audience, in case they're tuning in for the first time, what is the Balls from Ellwood show about? What do we do?
Well, we chat about life, and we chat about the things that we love, which are typically horror movies.
Don't forget Ska.
Well, Ska, yes, of course.
Don't forget punk.
Well, yeah, we have that too.
What do you love?
I love TV shows, like lots of good series and things like that, and that's...
What about Depravity?
Well, oh yeah, that's right. I forgot about how could I forget? Gosh, I'm so depraved from depravity. I love true crime, so I do a true crime segment called Xtina's Depravity Corner. And I'll try my best to tell you a really fucked up tale of the week.
And they usually are. So.
Well, they usually are.
You have that to look forward to, cats. Other than that, it's just, how many... Geez, I'm lost track. How many weeks of the apocalypse we into now? This is like, what, the 5th?
I think so. Something like that, yeah.
And how you holding up?
I'm holding up okay. I mean, it's funny. I kind of, don't miss being out in the world. Because, people. But yet, I kind of, do miss it in a way. I guess, I don't know. I don't want to be stuck in my house, but I also don't want to go anywhere. Does that make any sense?
It really does. I've yet to, I don't go out frequently, but, the little times I do, I find myself,
extra anxious.
Extra anxious.
Yeah.
I'm not... I'm not unhappy staying at home. A lot of people are really freaking out. Granted, there's times where I get a little itchy, but overall I've been pretty good. So I can't complain.
I don't think I'm afraid of the virus anymore as much as I'm just now I'm conditioned to being at home and not around people, and now I'm how do I handle this world? It's like someone who's been homeschooled for 13 years and now they got to go to real school. I can't even imagine that.
I think the thing that puzzles me is how things will be once we transition back into some semblance of a real world. Are people going to be kind and come together? And I have yet to see any sort of thing that makes me impressed at the human race. If anything, I've never really had much faith in that, and they've just proven that people are just altogether pretty self-motivated nowadays, and it's kind of depressing.
It really is. Honestly, that's the thing that's upset me the most about all this. When this initially happened, I thought, well, I hate when things like this happen. Well, not that pandemics happen all the time, but world tragedies, I guess you could say, where, it brings the world together, sort of. And, I thought, well, at least there's a lot of good that comes out of that. And maybe finally, we all are on the same page and we're all in the same boat. And finally, the world will come together as one, because, I'm an optimist. And sure as shit, that didn't happen. And it's dividing us even more. How is this possible? Well, I don't understand. We're asked to, stay home and, try not to go out too much, try to get this curve flattened so that this virus can kind of be put at bay. And it's not that hard. And yet everybody's oh, but I want my freedom and blah, blah, blah. Okay, I understand that. And I want that too. And I want everybody to go back to work. I don't want my friends who've lost their jobs to be sitting at home, not working and not making money. I don't want that at all. I don't want the economy to tank. But if you honestly think that the government has chosen to make the economy tank, you better go get your head checked.
I agree, man. I see all these people where their civil liberties are being attacked, which is total bullshit. You can't have... you're fighting for the right to infect other people. You're fighting for the right to, you don't give a... That's just like saying I don't give a fuck about you, and I don't give a fuck about your family, your friends, your loved ones. You see, you're fighting for the right to die, more or less. You're fighting for the right to die and to be a selfish fuckhead and infect others with no fucking, any sort of feeling, merit, or emotion whatsoever. So, I mean, hey, you can't have an economy. You can't go to work when you're fucking dead. So, there you go. That's all I really have to say about it. No sense harping on it. It's common sense, which I guess a lot of fucking people have none. So, I mean,
exactly.
Why get upset? So, it is what it is. We'll see how the fucking chips fall, and I guess I've been shielding myself from even. I used to look at the death toll every day. I mean, we lost almost 1 million people now, and people still think it's a fucking it's made up. It's a fucking blah 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 from the day.
If they believe it, they're like, well, we lost something million to cancer last year. But like we said before in our last episode, I believe it was, nobody came in and gave you a car accident. Well, nobody came around and gave you cancer either from coming into contact with them, right? So, I mean, and this many millions of people died of natural causes. Nobody walked into the store and gave me natural causes either. So,
it's common sense. I mean,
killing me, people. Killing me.
I mean, I think animals are more smart at this point. So, I mean,
for real, man, for real.
But anyhow, like I said, why bother fucking getting upset about it? I don't even look at the news no more. I don't even worry about it anymore. If you're smart and you take the precautions you're supposed to. And even if it's your fucking time to go, it's your time to go. So, I mean...
I guess, yeah.
I mean, no sense in worrying about something you have no control over anyway. I mean,
right.
If you do what you're supposed to...
I mean, it's kind of like by the same token of worrying about getting murdered every day. I mean, I guess.
I mean, if you worry so much about dying, you're never going to live.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I'm done with that shit. I'm doing the things I'm supposed to and just, being thankful for every day. It's a gift. So.
And we're thankful to give you content, the content you need.
And we're thankful for you listeners, too,
Absolutely.
I have to say. I mean, I love every single one of you. I don't like people, so, I mean, you guys should feel pretty special.
Pretty good, yeah.
Moving right along, we got a couple things we like to talk about and take care of before we have a guest today. I have an incredible guest today since, I've been probably in my... high school years, even probably late high school. I've always been a ska fan. From then, it changed my life. It's made me the dude I am now. If I was to go back in a time machine and tell, 20-year-old balls, hey, in 20 years, you're going to, be friends with one of your most favorite people in the world and most favorite bands in the world. And, you're going to have a show. They're going to come and do an interview with you. You're going to get to talk to all these cool people that you, admire. Yeah. I would have told you, go fuck yourself. You're insane. So, yeah. And I probably would have kicked you in the nuts and gave you a finger. But I was an asshole. No, still an asshole.
No.
But, now I'm a lovable asshole. How's that?
There we go. That's accurate.
But, I would have never believed you. But, lo and behold, today we have the man, the myth, the legend, lead singer of the Slackers, one of my favorite ska bands in the world. And Balls even does a little sing-along with them at the end. We have our first musical guest, technically, which is really cool. Other than that...
What's his name? You didn't tell us.
Oh, yeah, Vic Ruggiero, the lead singer of the Slackers. In fact, he's a solo artist. He does lots of cool stuff on his own, too. But, yeah, super fucking pumped today, cats. This is kind of a big deal to me, very special show. And it's a special show to me, too, because, we were talking before about, the effect of this whole situation on, littler things. Bands like fucking Green Day and all these big fucking stadium bands and shit like that, they're going to be fine.
They're fine.
They got millions upon millions of dollars, but people that really legitimately work their ass off, and you count on each gig as as conveyance for to pay the rent, to pay their bills.
Yeah,
are in trouble now.
Yeah,
all these littler punk bands that we're into, punk bands and ska bands, are having a really hard time, staying above the water. So we're gonna put up Venmo and PayPal information through this whole show. I can't urge you enough. Help these cats out. They're really great folks on top of really great musicians. And not only that, help your other littler musicians out as well.
Yeah, buy some merch. Now's the time to buy merch. You can still, typically, they're still shipping it. It might take a little while longer, but, support them. And, if you don't want to throw them $5, I mean, get yourself a t-shirt, get yourself some cool swag, whatever. But, that's the way to do it.
Yeah, I mean, you're not going to be at a concert nice. You have that extra scratch floating around. And I got to say, I've noticed a lot of bands are really putting some good deals out there because of the fact. So you're going to get a lot of cool stuff for pennies on the dollar, cat. So check it out. It's a sad thing. Please support your, all these bands that you like that aren't big stadium bands, because they really, really need your help. So all I'm trying to say, other than that, Xtina, we got some movie reviews. We're going to get to your Depravity, and then we're going to get to Vic Ruggiero. So, what did we watch recently we could talk about here? I know we watched some stuff.
We watched a movie last night. It's kind of like an indie film. It was pretty interesting, really, but I can never remember the name of it.
Dead by Dawn.
There you go. Dead by Dawn.
What'd you think of it?
It was pretty good given the budget. You could tell it was a relatively low budget film. But at the same time, like, it had, a good plot, and it had, some suspense and stuff. So, I mean, and they played the music at the right times, and, they did a lot. It was a lot more good than bad, for sure. I mean, is it a little cheesy at times? Sure. But I think they pulled off a good, like, what do you call it? Like a thriller almost, in a way. For a low budget film, it was pretty decent. What did you think?
I agree with you 100%. I mean, I actually like this film, and I tell you what, it had a lot of potential, and I mean, I like it for this reason. It shows you, how much you don't need a ton of money to make a decent movie.
Yeah, they clearly had a decent drone and a great drone operator.
Yeah, they had a lot of really great drone. I mean, they pulled off so many good things on little money at all. I'm impressed just by that. I mean, as you said, it was a little cheesy, but I almost feel like it was kind of like a homage to like 80s movies.
Yeah.
Like it was like almost like an 80s thriller, had a real 80s feel to it. And I mean, they had some pretty competent acting.
Yeah.
I mean, like I said, I mean, they pulled out some really good action sequences.
Yeah, I looked up those actors. I mean, they're legit. Like, they're real actors. And that one chick, she plays a girl named Snack, because her boyfriend calls her a snack. So that's her name. I thought it was hilarious.
I'm going to start calling you my snack.
I think she had something to do with production in it, or she might have been involved in... I caught her name twice, and I was like, oh, that's the chick that wrote... Or she didn't write it, but she had a lot to do with, like, directing or producing it. I thought that was interesting.
I'm actually going to take notice at this guy, because he's been pulling off, like, these low budget, decent films for a while. If I see him now, I'd be more inclined to actually check something out. He kind of went under my radar, but I mean, I was impressed with. I mean, I like when people do that, because like it goes to show you see all these big budget Hollywood shit movies, and they throw millions upon millions of dollars, and it's just like your same derivative dreck. Right. You see, and then you see like somebody like this that had little money at all,
right?
And they make a movie almost comparable to a Hollywood movie,
right? And it really, I mean, I was kind of on the edge of my seat, and I was very intrigued, and I couldn't wait to see what happened. And just when you thought, well, they're not going to tie this together, they're going to screw something up because they're going to forget that they said this, and then go back. No, everything was consistent, and it was very, I was pretty impressed.
Yeah, it was a decent, adequate time waster.
Yeah, that's our catchphrase. It was
now. But I was actually, it was
quarantine catchphrase.
Yeah. But yeah, I have to say, if you have some time, I mean, surely it's not the best thing you're going to watch, but if you have some time and you want to see like a decent, 80s kind of thriller, I watched Dead by Dawn. I liked it.
Give it a whirl. What else did you watch? Did you watch anything without me?
Oh, I did. I watched like a documentary on Spookies. There's a movie called Spookies I super love. I watched the documentary on when they had first filmed this movie. It was directed by two different people, and it was two movies put together to make one movie, and it actually somehow worked.
That's weird.
But it was cool. They caught up with all the people that were in the movie years ago. It became a big cult thing, and it showed you a little bit of how that became. That was really cool. But what I really, my pick of the year so far and I know I've liked a lot of stuff this year, but this movie I think is probably gonna be the bee's knees for me. We watched VFW.
Oh yeah. I already forgot about it. How did I forget? Jeez, it was great.
I loved it. She loved it.
Yeah. VFW, check it out. It's available for rent, I think, on Amazon right now, right?
Yeah, all your local places have it for rent.
Because it was supposed to be in a movie theater, am I right?
I think Fangoria was releasing it in limited release, and it might have played in a few theaters before all this shit started, but it didn't get the love it deserved for sure. It went right to videos, so it's pretty much like all the old like 70s and 80s action stars like William Sadler, Fred Williamson. I can't remember his name, but the dude was the blind guy in Don't Breathe.
Yeah.
He's incredible.
He's like the star of the show.
Martin Cove from Cobra Kai.
George Wendt makes
even
an
fucking
appearance.
George Wendt's in this fucking movie, and they're all really, really good.
And what's funny is, so it's called VFW, and it is what you would think. It's about a bunch of old guys that served in Nam, and they're hanging out at the VFW drinking, and the one guy's their bartender, and they all shoot the shit, and yada yada. And then there's this like, I don't know, drug house craziness going on, like a little place, a few buildings over, and all kind of wackiness ensues. And I don't want to give the movie away, so you have to see. But these old men have to get involved with like, bad shit. So
yeah, they need to protect a young girl because that's how they roll, man. They're an old head, and they're not going to let people hurt a young girl. So she comes in, they want to protect her. It's like kind of like a post-apocalyptic thing, oddly enough, and everybody's addicted to this drug called, I think it's hype, and it's like it's like all the cops seceded because it's so fucked up that they can't even control this neighborhood. And tell you what, here's what I really loved about this movie. A lot of movies have characters, and you very seldom get to know them, so you don't have that connection. This movie painstakingly, developed these characters to the point where you love them so much you really, really didn't want to see nothing happen to them.
Yeah.
And I mean, it didn't seem boring either. Like a lot of the times where movies will, take time to develop characters.
It's like, what is going on? Is this ever going to get anywhere? Yeah.
But this wasn't the case.
Like
by the time the shit hits the fan,
like you already care.
You care about every single one of these people, man, and you're just like, fuck, how is this gonna, how is this gonna work? So, edge of my seat. Great performances by all. I tell you what, it's got some really good fucking effects too, man. For a low budget film, they're pulling off incredible gore effects. Action effects, all kinds of shit, man. The acting is great. I can't think of nothing bad to say about this movie. I love the score even. This was one of my picks of the year. This might be the Balls pick of the year. So unless we'll see. The year is young yet, but great fucking film. Highly recommended.
Awesome.
Did we see anything else?
I don't really think we did.
I think that's probably it.
Yeah. Seems about it.
So anyway, we have a lot to cover today and a little time to do so because we want to get to our interview. So I want to just, I'm going to hurry up and throw it right over to Xtina here. We're going to get to her Depravity Corner. It's now time for that part of the show. You know her. You love her. Let's go to Xtina. Xtina, what do you got for us today?
Well, what I have, let me ask you this. When I say the word, I guess it's two words, Nova Scotia, what comes to mind?
Bless you.
Well, that wasn't exactly what I was looking for, but Nova Scotia is a province in Canada on the east coast here, quite north of us. North of, I guess, Maine, northeast of Maine. It's like off into the Atlantic Ocean, kind of. I think it's an island, if I'm not mistaken. But anywho, Nova Scotia. When I think of that, I think of obviously snow and very quiet and like deer and moose and, just very nice, polite people who just, pretty much keep to themselves and, don't do much. And that's pretty much what it is until last Saturday. Last Saturday, all hell broke loose. And have you heard about this, Balls?
I have not. No.
Oh wow. Okay.
Like I said, I've been shielding myself from the media. I've been in Ballsville, which is very happy. There's video games and midgets and strippers and cream pies and dragons and lots of soda. I mean,
Good. Wow.
But anywho, there hasn't been any death, depravity, and murder.
Wow.
But,
that's a good place to be. Well, I'm glad you weren't in the province of Nova Scotia because last Saturday that was not the place to be for many people. Canada experienced its worst mass shooting of all time.
Holy shit.
Yeah. And how this didn't make... I mean, it's made national news, but I feel like, they owe these people, like, at least a 30-minute news segment. Jesus Christ. I mean, get off the coronavirus and share this. I mean, these freaking people didn't need to die. And, so what happened was, we have a man by the name of Gabriel Wortman. He is 51 years old. He is a... What do you call him? A denturist is what he's called. Denturist. And do you know what a denturist does? He makes dentures.
Oh.
Pretty cool, huh?
No.
So this man was very well known in his town. He ran 2 businesses. They were his businesses.
He made choppers.
So he's a millionaire because of making choppers.
Wow.
And I mean, he was...
I didn't know the chopper business was so lucrative.
Apparently it is, yes. Well, hell, do you know how much these freaking dentures cost? Jesus.
No, I don't.
Yeah, they're a lot. We gotta hope we can keep our teeth, man. Dentures are not cheap, people. So, with that being said, this man made a really good living, and he even was, like, known. They did a news segment on him a few years back that he was, donating to some poor people that couldn't afford their dentures, real man of the people here, real nice guy, supporting his local community. Until he snapped. And apparently, Mr. Wortman was obsessed with the Royal Canadian Mounted Police. That's the fancy Canadian term for the cops. Yeah. Canada cracks me up. I love it. But, Royal Canadian Mounted Police. Maybe years ago they were mounted on some horses, but now they just drive around in a car, but they're still called the Royal Canadian Mounted Police.
Hey, we have no horses, eh? We just drive around in cars, eh?
That's that right, eh? So, it's about time we tell you this story. So, with that said, this man was obsessed with all things, cop-related, cop cars. So he owned a couple of cop cars. And then he owned, like, the little badges that have, like, Royal Canadian Mounted Police on them. And he had, like, I don't know if he had, like, you call it a shrine, but, he was pretty into it. So, with that said, he took off on Saturday. Now, here's what cracks me up. The story, I've read several different stories, and everything's still kind of being pieced together. But he was at a party with his girlfriend. Now, let's start there. We're under coronavirus quarantine time. Why you at a party? Anyway.
Hey, when you're the chopper man, you can do anything.
Right. So, here we are. We're at a party. And apparently he and his girlfriend got into a big fight. So they went home. The fight continued. He apparently tied her up and left her to die, set their house on fire. And she luckily ran away into the woods and was found the next morning. Well, unfortunately, that was too late to stop what had ultimately happened through the night. For 12 hours, this man, in his police attire, in his police car, circled like many a mile through Nova Scotia, shooting people at random, going to people's houses that he kind of knew, burning their houses down. They say there were 18 different crime scenes. I think 3 to 5 houses that were totally burnt down, and people obviously that died in there. Families that were just driving along the, getting home from, grocery shopping, I'd imagine. What else are we doing now? Just killed at random because he wanted to be a dick. So we have a total of 22 dead people, luckily, including the gunman himself. But And that had to happen because when they finally did catch up with him 12 hours later, there was a standoff and he was, shooting at the police. What are you supposed to do? So they had to shoot him. But, a lot of people are very shaken up. I mean, everybody says, oh, this won't happen in my small town. But
until it does.
A little town in Nova Scotia, like, nobody would, ever foresee that. So, for sure. Now, here's what I just watched a little video snippet. There's a man whose brother died. And this goes into the category of, this is why people are afraid to help when people need help. Like a dad and then his, two sons, they're grown. They're in their probably 40s, 50s. I guess they all live together or they're hanging out quarantining together. Were just chilling in their house and they heard a gunshot. So the one brother says to the other one, hey, did you hear that? And he's like, yeah, let's go see what's up. So they look out, they, open their door and they hear another gunshot. And then they're like, what is going on? Well, he looks down the street and he can see something's on fire, like the neighbor's house. And this guy's like, I gotta go help. And he's like, well, don't go without me. And he's like, no, stay here with Dad. And so he goes and doesn't come back and doesn't come back and doesn't come back. And they're trying to call him and he's not answering. And so the other brother goes out into, down the street to find him. And of course finds him laying there dead shot with a gunshot because crazy psycho guy got a hold of him. All because he wanted to go and help the people whose house was burning. I mean, this is why it's hard to want to help people. So yeah, I don't know, but it's very sad. I have a, we'll post up some pictures. The guy's little dentistry place is pretty funny. I have a picture of that. It has these big giant teeth on the outside of the building, but another kind of sort of humorous thing about it is they came and took down the teeth off of the building just because I guess they don't want to trigger anybody, which, whatever. It's kind of humorous, I guess. I don't know. They're going to put it in the serial killer Hall of Fame or what? I don't know. But, yeah. But, and here, this is interesting too. So, again, very little, I'm kind of confused still, but apparently he had a girlfriend. He was, known to somewhat abuse her. He, was trying to abuse her that night. One of his first stops on his killing spree was to his ex-wife's and her new boyfriend's. So again, why do we you have a new girlfriend, you don't need her, she has a new boyfriend, let him move on. Nope, gotta take care of that. I don't get it. So what, and I heard he was very upset because his business was, closed down due to the coronavirus. So I'm sure he had some, legit concerns and maybe that's what drove him to snap. But okay. You're going to snap and kill your girlfriend or kill your wife and you're going to go and kill your ex-wife and whatever. Why stop there? Just keep on going. Just let's kill everybody and set everybody's house on fire. How crazy do you have to be? And then they showed him, they found us, how there's security cameras everywhere. They found a surveillance video where he pulled over. This is about maybe an hour before they caught him. So he had already killed the majority of the people he had killed. And he pulls over, gets out of his car, and he changes his jacket. Or his, he didn't take his shirt off or nothing, but he was he put on a, what do you call that? A fluorescent shirt. Something to see him better with. Why? I don't know. He knows people are looking for him. But this man was just calm as can be. Just nonchalantly gets out of the car and just like Mr. Rogers changing his sweater. Just very calm. Not a feeling in the world. And then he goes on to, I guess, this gas station where he was ultimately surrounded by the Royal Canadian Mounted Police in their cop cars. There we go. But anyway, very tragic, very sad. Lots of good people died. I mean, these were good people. I mean, there's a police officer died, a woman, 23-year service. A man and a wife that were, I think teachers. And, these were legit good people that did not deserve this. And so, in the time of, and we're all worried about a virus, You don't think that you're going to get murdered on the side of the highway. And people are pissed at the police because they put out a warning on Twitter, as opposed to like doing, say, like an Amber Alert type thing where it all beeps on your phone. Like, warning, stay in your house or whatever. They should have done that, and I'm sure they regret that at this point. But still, people are pissed. They're like, well, we don't all have Twitter. We're supposed to just go on Twitter and be like, oh, sure, yeah, look, stay locked in. How are they supposed to know? But honestly, I mean, the police shouldn't beat themselves up too bad. This was a wild case that no one could have predicted. And honestly, I mean, who's gonna assume that a man in a cop outfit in a cop car is out to kill people? You don't assume that,
Apparently, I've never seen Psycho Cop.
Well, apparently not. Apparently, horror movies will teach you things.
Yeah. What I'd like to know is what sets off Chopper Man, right? Like to beat up his old lady or to kill all these people. Yeah. It's like, bitch, I seen you flossing and brushing. I'm gonna fucking punch you.
Right? Is that what it is? Yeah.
That's what it is. All these people were all people that like took good care of their teeth.
Yeah.
He's like, I'm gonna show these fuckers. Yeah. That's it. I'm triggered. So
that's right. I'm triggered. But again, it all goes back to mental health, and what could we have done better, and did we know this man was a loose cannon? And some people are, saying, yeah, we saw this coming a mile away. Others are like, holy crap, I can't believe this guy did this. So, again, you never know, and it's all about what you present to the world. But,
everybody wears masks. This guy just happened to keep his on a little longer.
Yep. And it's funny, like the initial picture they put up of him, he looks like a really nice guy. And then I saw like the video of him in his like dental office, and he looks a little shady. And I'm like, okay, now I see you look more like a pee-pee toucher, but okay. And who knows, maybe he was.
That was his moonlighting job.
Maybe, perhaps. So at any rate, God bless Canada. Oh Canada, oh Canada. And I'm very sorry I don't know the rest of your song. So there you go. How's that for a depravity, balls?
That's pretty good, I gotta say.
Yeah, let's do something positive.
You outdid yourself. You outdid yourself again, man. Always, every week. But real quickly, before we get to the great Vic Ruggiero, I just wanted to mention real fast. We did watch one more thing. At least I had watched it. I think you watched part of it a while ago. I don't think I forgot to mention it, but it's now on Amazon Prime. And since we are, in fact, talking ska, there's an incredible documentary on it called Pick It Up, Ska in the 90s. There's anybody upon everybody is in this thing. Aquabats, Suicide Machines. They talk about the Boss. They talk about Real Big Fish. Yeah. It's narrated by your boy Tim Armstrong.
My boy.
And it's a really great, comprehensive documentary on ska. If you don't know what it is, or if you do know what it is and you're a fan of it, you're gonna love this documentary. I think it's probably one of the best ones they've did about the subject. And one more thing before we go. Don't forget to tune in this Saturday, which is, you might be seeing it Sunday, so it might happen to be the day before. But go on Shudder, because it's always archived. And don't forget to check out Season 2 of The Last Drive-In with Joe Bob Briggs. I got this handy-dandy little postcard from them cats. And to make sure you tune in next week, where our guest will be Darcy the Mail Girl from that show. So had a nice candid interview with her. You cats, I think, are really going to dig it. Funny.
Very cool chick.
Very cool chick. Make sure you don't miss that if you're a fan of this. And even if you're not, check her out. You might turn you on. So
she wasn't porn. She might turn you on,
Well, she might very well. She might turn you on in both ways.
There you go.
But so anyway, I think we covered all bases.
I think we did.
So let's get to this interview. One of my favorite people in the world, Vic Ruggiero, the Slackers. Check it out, cats. This is the Balls from Ellwood show. With me this week, if you know Balls, you know I have a great deal of admiration for this cat. My favorite ska band in the world. He is the lead singer. He has his own stuff going on, which I thoroughly enjoy as well. Give it up for the man, the myth, the legend, Vic Ruggiero. So what have you been doing, Vic, to occupy your time in this crazy, crazy world?
Well, I was really, I got to say, I was happy to have the first couple weeks, like week and a half. I think I slept for a week straight.
You
And,
probably needed it, man. Jeez, you guys never stop. You
yeah,
never stop.
I flew back from Germany, and I had been in the midst of a solo tour, a kind of like one of my many iterations of solo touring. And well, the gigs started canceling. I guess anybody who's on tour knows the same story.
Yeah.
And it was like, from one day to the next, it was like, okay, we're going to Hamburg tomorrow. Oh, we're not going. It's like, okay, but don't worry, we can still make it to Mannheim the next day. It's like, nope, Mannheim doesn't look like it's happening. They're iffy. And then it was like, oh no, now what? Now what? So we started to be like, I started to think, well, I'll be stuck in Germany. No big deal. I'll stay here for a few weeks extra till my plane flight. My flight happens, and then we started seeing, oh, they're closing airports. Oh, they're shutting all the borders. So, like, if I wanted to take a trip, go visit, like I got a place to stay in Austria or a place to stay in wherever. Nope, you're stuck. You might even be stuck in the city you're stuck in. And I was like, oh, and Dave was like, Vic, you better get home, man. He's like, I might not see you for months. So I changed my flight and I came home. Mm-hmm. Home, what home is these days, which is barely. I really haven't lived anywhere for the past couple of years, really. I've been like, I just kind of stay on the road.
You're kind of nomadic. You kind of bounce from place to place.
Yeah, but I have like what I call is kind of a glorified storage closet, which of course other touring musicians can relate to. I remember when I met Tim from Rancid, that's what he had. He had a squat room with a padlock on it. And we stopped by once in a blue moon. He had to run in and grab a guitar or something out of there, and it was like, yeah, okay, these are my people. So that's like me, basically. So, yeah, I don't know. It's been good. Right now, I'm in the midst of all sorts of stuff helping my sister out. She actually got it.
Oh man.
Hospital for a week.
Is she gonna be all right?
Yeah. She made it out of the hospital. But for a minute,
that's good news, man. Everybody reports the bad news. That's a positive. It's good some positive stuff,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it was nice because I did a little show on Instagram and Facebook.
I was on there. I checked it out.
Yeah, I'll probably do that again. But
actually, I'll be honest with you. Those have been keeping my morale up so much. I love when you do that.
Yeah, I'll do it again. And but I mentioned it on, I mentioned it, and everybody wrote back. It was like immediately. So I sent my sister like all these, get well cards.
Oh, I must have missed that part.
Yeah,
I have some issues with my phone there from the one part.
No, I mean, I was just surprised that, like, I mentioned it in passing and, like, people picked up on it. And I was like, look, everybody says get well, and it was really nice. It made me feel like a part of a community, which I guess that's what...
We are, man. I really think of it that way. I look at, all of us as like a family. It's nice. Like, I believe in the power of, a bunch of people. Well,
yes.
Too. I do believe that works, man. I really think I've seen, miracles happen from people just positive together, and it doesn't happen too often, especially now.
God knows. I know a little.
That's incredible news, man. I love hearing stuff like that. I'm glad she's doing better.
Yeah, she's nuts though. She's a work maniac. I guess it runs in the family. We like to.
How do you think you became that way? Was your folks like that?
When I think about it, yeah, they were both very passionate characters. Not to say that my mother, I understood. Yeah, my mother, she was a teacher, and she definitely looked at her job as a vocation. She wasn't just like, oh yeah, I thought I would teach. I don't know, I was going to do something else, but then I decided maybe I'd teach, and then I did it for the last 20 years. No, she was like at 5 or 6 years old. She was like, I'm going to be a teacher. I know this. I feel it in my heart. And I kind of remember also having that moment. I mean, I was a teenager. I mean, I knew I always wanted to play. I always liked to play music. But I remember at about 19 years old, I was sitting around. I had broken my foot riding my bike. I broke my foot, and I was sitting around, and I really had a moment to think. And I was like, man, if I really don't do this, like if I actually don't try to do this, I mean, like, I'm gonna hate myself, right? I'm gonna like really hate myself. And I got enough reasons to hate myself already. So like, just start trying to knock a few off the list, you know? So I gave myself like a time limit, and I said, look, I'm only going to do this for like 5 years. I'm going to give it a 5-year, because Marcus, who I was already friends with, the bass player, right?
How did you meet him in school?
Well, actually, Marcus and I were playing in a punk band together. The old singer of the punk band, my buddy Happy, who managed to he basically introduced the whole band to each other.
Oh, wow, that's cool.
Yeah, Happy's like he's a guy that's not particularly musical, though he is incredibly creative, you know?
I know people like that.
Yeah. So it's like, and so we were in a band together. We didn't know what to do in high school, so we started a band, you know?
Now, was that before the odds?
Oh, that was before the
odds.
That was a band called Sick and Mad. And Sick and Mad is where I met Marcus. Me and my buddy Happy, we started Sick and Mad because we were trying to pick up this girl. You know, we were like, well, one of us is going to get her, right? If she's in the band, we'll have a reason to hang out. And of course, none of that worked out.
Nobody got her.
No, I mean, it was cool. We had a good concept, but we weren't cool enough. The thing is that she played violin, and we thought, well, if you play violin, that's got 4 strings. You can play bass. I think that's what everybody thinks with, you know, they want somebody in the band. They don't know. They're like, oh, you can play bass. I don't know. And so we were always, we were always looking for, we had traded out bass players a few times. And my buddy went to this college party, something like that. Marcus is a few years older than us. And my buddy went to this party, and I guess he got really stoned with Marcus. And they were talking. And next thing you know, I get a call. Hey, I found a bass player. We got it. We got a cool bass. And not to mention, he's like, he goes to school at this crazy school. There's girls all over the place. You're not going to believe it. And, yeah, that was Marcus, you know?
Man, that's great. See, you're knocking out all these questions I don't even have to ask him, man. That knocked out a good 5 already.
Yeah, well, you know, I definitely, the mouth is a gift.
I gotta say, as a fan, I love hearing your banter. Like,
oh yeah,
we love hearing what you have to say in between. Like, it's fascinating, man. You know, you're like a wealth of stories. Like, if you just put out an album of you telling stories, I still think everybody would love it. So I mean, yeah, man, I'm not even shitting you. Like, I love it.
I'm happy to know. I mean, like I said, you know, there are family traits. You know.
So, I mean, what did your dad think? Was he supportive of like your musical career?
My father was not really hip to the whole musician lifestyle, and I guess he just worried about me. I realized that he thought that I wasn't going to be. You know, he thought that I wasn't like. I don't know. I think maybe he thought I was just going to be a drug addict or something like that.
Oh,
I think that's essentially it. He was just like, "What are you doing? Why are you wasting your time with this? All the musicians I know are jerks." You know. Of course, we had a guy that we were friends with.
Yeah.
That was a roofer, and he was a drummer. And so it was like Jerry the Roofer, and Jerry the Roofer was always up there. If you know, you'd be working with him, building something, and Jerry was always playing on his legs. He'd always be like.
Every drummer I know is always doing that, whether they're tapping on boxes or table or.
And I'd watch him, and I'd be like, "Oh, so this is how you practice drums?" And I think I even asked him. I think he said like, "Yeah, you know, playing drums isn't like about actually playing the skins all the time. He's like, it's about, you know, getting you like it happens in here." And so that's what I realized too, like about playing piano and about actually anything. Most of the time. I mean, most of the time that I write songs, I don't even need to sit with a guitar. I don't usually. With a guitar or a piano, I kind of know where the melody's going, and I can kind of notate it as I go. And then maybe to just work out the little details, like need a guitar or something. But yeah, so, you know.
That makes me want to ask you, I've always wanted to ask you this. I mean, you have all that in your head. Is it often hard time, you know, to translate from that to like actual instrument? And what's the longest you've ever worked on a song until you felt that it's complete?
Oh, I mean, you know, it's really it depends. I mean, there's songs, for example, like I remember recently, like this, like I had written the song for the Reggae Workers band, the RWW guys, and it's called "When Will I Be Good." And I had this great line or two, and I was like, "Oh, this is great." And then I actually went to play it on the guitar, and I realized that the words that I wanted to say, that they all kind of lined up. It like the chords. I was like, "Well, how do I play this chord twice?" I'm like, it doesn't. But in my head, it all made sense. But to actually play it was really tough. And I thought, oh, this is a good one, because when you get ones like that, that's really good, because it's not. There's no formula. Everything isn't in a box. You're not just sticking to things that sticking to predetermined things. Because a lot of times that's how it happens. You're like, oh, a blues. I got 2 lines. I do the 2 lines and then a little twist and then do it again. So this was like, oh, cool. And it was one of the first times in a long time that I actually had to sit there with a guitar in my van.
You figure it out?
And really go like, wait, how does that melody go? I'm like, but I know it. I hear it. And it was a real... So that happens once in a while. And there's songs that take a while to work out sometimes, because you want to do stuff. You have the words. You have the idea, but it's like like I have one song, one or two actually, that I keep revising, because I'll do like a demo of them and realize that it goes on for 5 minutes, or like it's just too long, or like you hear it back and you're like, there's too many. I say that one word too many times. I say what too many times. What? Oh, what's the song called? What? What's the song called this, not what, Anyway.
When was can you think of the definitive moment, like wherever you like fell in love with the ska genre?
Oh, I know the moment, actually. I know the moment. So I had a friend of mine that she had gotten, okay, they used to be this promoter in New York, and he used to hand out these little business cards. And the business cards, they had a funny picture on it. It was like, oh, I'm, Crazy Joey or something like that. And Crazy Joey Promotions, blah, blah, blah. And on the back of the card, it said, if it's your birthday, you and 6 friends can come into any of my shows for free for that night. And so this friend of mine, she was actually a friend of my girlfriend, she said, guys, we're going to go to this show. Come down, meet me at this place. It's called Downtown. It's on 666 Broadway in Manhattan. And I was like, oh, cool. Yeah, let's go to Manhattan. Let's go hang out. I could use a show, and I was like a punk rocker back then. So I was just like, yeah, I'm up for whatever. And I like, just, want to check shit out. And we go into this place, and it's like, I freeze. I'm like, oh, there's like skinheads everywhere. I'm like, but strangely enough, they don't look like the jerk skinheads that I know from the hardcore shows. I'm like, something about them is different. They look kind of nerdy. And like some guys are wearing suits, and like I'm looking around, and the first band comes on, and I'm like, hey, they sound like the Blues Brothers. I'm like, this is cool. I'm like, but it's got the energy of punk, but it's like, but they like the Blues Brothers, and like they're doing all this cool stuff. And then like the next band came on, and it was actually, these bands were bands I ended up knowing. One of the bands was actually the Scofflaws.
Oh, nice! I love the Scofflaws.
And I believe that was the first show that they played under the name the Scofflaws, because they changed their name from the New Bohemians, which at the time Edie Brickell had just bought their name from the Scofflaws.
Yeah, no kidding.
Strangely enough. So it was them. The next band that went on was Skinnerbox.
No way.
It was actually Skinnerbox's like first gig, I think. It was like one of these moments in history. It was like an early gig for Skinnerbox. Same thing. I was like, I don't know what the hell they're doing, but it's different and it's cool. And it still feels like punk. It has the energy of punk. And then the last band that went on was a band called The Press, which was an amazing New York band. It was like kind of they would call it street punk these days. But But back then we were just like, I don't know, it sounds like the Clash. It sounds like it's kind of oi, it's kind of the Clash. And they were like super socialist, righteous band. I came out of there and I was like, I just saw something that changed.
It's a game changer.
It was a game changer.
I was gonna say, dude, whenever I first ordered my CD off of the Moon catalog, Better Late Than Never,
yeah.
It was a game changer. The first Scofflaw self-titled was a game changer.
Oh yeah.
You guys were very instrumental in getting me into. That was some of my definitive moments. So I mean, I can't thank you enough.
Well, we can thank the Scofflaws because the Scofflaws remained in the early days of my experience with it. They were the band that I loved, and to this day I think if I could go back in time and hear the Scofflaws from 1989 or whatever, 80, 89, because I used to see them a lot around that time. I had moved down to Manhattan and they were playing a lot in Manhattan around that time. And a great band. That's where I met Vic Rice. That's where I met Buford.
Nice.
Mike Drance, like these guys. And they were all these guys that I was like, who are these guys? They're like some kind of other species. And so it was really cool. It was like, I remember Buford had this old police jacket, like an old, like ancient, like I don't know if it was a French police jacket or it was a New York police jacket. Or maybe it was a Pennsylvania one, actually, now that I'm thinking about it.
Huh.
But it was an old police jacket, and I remember thinking, like, hey, man, that's really cool. That's like, what's your thing, I kind of was just coming out of the punk scene, and I was used to just basic punk. I don't know how to explain it, but the trimmings that go with punk.
Yeah.
So I could see if somebody was wearing some kind of like, some kind of SS leather jacket, I'd be like, oh yeah, sure, But it's like, what is this? What is this weird what is this police jacket? This strange, like, you look like from the 1800s with these big chops, sideburns,
yeah.
this old jacket, and you're wearing like a cap. I'm like, what is this? Yeah. I mean, it's cool. Very cool. A very cool guy. I mean, these guys were cool, Oh,
I've loved them since I fell in love with them ever since that first self-titled CD. But anyway, man, moving right along, I wanted to ask you, when you're in a band like you are, you're with people so much, and whether it be little crowded situations, does it put a strain on, relationships sometimes with like your family, your friends, or, just trying to, how do you get along with, all the people when you're in such a big band and you're in such a small place all the time? Do you ever get on each other's nerves?
Oh yeah. I mean, the Slackers are very good at managing through crisis, in the sense that there's enough guys in the band that if you're mad at somebody, you don't have to talk to them for like, a week, a month, a year. You know what I mean? Like, you can really get by without, like, if you're having a problem. So that's one real benefit. 6 guys plus a couple of,
Most of the time, bands would break because of that reason. And you guys have been together for such a long time. I mean, obviously, you almost be like family. So I mean.
Well, I remember one time I went to go see the Scatolites, right? And we played with the Scatolites at a small place in I think it might have been a school. I think it was Yale, or maybe the one in Jersey, Princeton. I think it was Princeton, New Jersey. And it was a small venue in the campus, and it was one of the best shows I'd ever seen of the Scatolites. It was like up close. Actually, it was the last time that I got to see Roland and Tommy both in the same place. That was it basically. And I went up to Lloyd Knibb after the show, and I said, "My God, man!" I said, "Do you guys know? Do you know what happens? Do you know, like, the miracle that happens when you guys play?" And he goes, "Yeah, man." He goes, "What? We don't show up because we like each other."
See, I would think that they all were super tight. You know what I mean?
Yeah, he was like, "Believe me," he's like, "It's not because we like each other." And he what was beautiful about it was that he completely acknowledged I was in a state of euphoria that I don't know, I might have been talking like a maniac, you know, looking like some hippie from Woodstock or something. Dude, do you realize?
You mean?
Like, wow, you know, and he's just like, man, he's like, you know, and with that voice, he had this voice like a monster. We would joke about it. He'd be like,
Yeah, you don't think we show up because we like it. Because we like each other.
you know, it's like,
You're killing me.
but it was just like he had this. It was beautiful because it reminds me too. Sometimes when I'm looking at the band and I'm mad at somebody and I'm just like, oh God, you know. Usually I'm mad because of something they're playing. Actually, I'm picky, but
What's the longest you've ever been mad at somebody in the band? You don't have to name names or nothing, but
the longest.
what's the longest the Slackers feuds went on? Is it days, months, years?
No, it's like, believe me, there are things that they've been going on since the beginning. I mean,
Shit, I would have never thought
band's
that.
been together almost 30 years. There are arguments that I can have that, like, we'll go right back to when we met the guy.
Wow.
Like, what do
See,
you
that
mean?
is family, because that family knows what buttons to push whenever you get in an argument, I mean.
Yeah, no, I mean, they can just go. They'll be like, I paid for that rehearsal. I paid for that rehearsal out of my own pocket. You still owe me $750, you know.
$7.50?
Yeah. Like, don't you remember? That was what, you know, because it was the day rate and it was the afternoon, you know, and so we got the $750 rate, you know, and it's just like, oh my God. Yeah, yeah.
I guess, man, that's crazy.
But that's what it is, because me too. I'm still pissed off about drink tickets that the guy didn't give me in, 1992. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And, you know, like, you get me in the right mood, and I'll be like, you know, you had those drink tickets.
Well, you know what it is? You think about it at the time and you don't have that drink, and you're like, God damn, motherfucker, if I had that drink right now.
Yeah, I know.
Let me ask you this, dude. What is the record amount for groupies you've had in a day? Do you get groupies being in a ska band?
Well,
I'm assuming you do, dude. You're a good-looking dude, so I'm sure you're having no problem getting trim, right?
Well, I can tell you we can take the conversation back, because one of the reasons that I went back to those kind of gigs, I showed up at this show, and there were guys wearing trench coats and hats like I wore, you know, and I was like, but there was girls. And I went to these shows, and I would go to the Scofflaws gigs, and I'd go see Skinner Box. They were girls. And I was going to hardcore shows. And hardcore shows,
That's a sausage party, pretty much. Huh?
There were two girls that would show up, and one of them, you were kind of like, you know, like, what? And she'd be like, I'm going to kick your ass, you know? I liked it, but it was like, this was really like girls dressed like, 60s mod. You know, it was cool.
See, I think that shit's sexy, man, for sure.
Yeah, really. And I got to tell you, man, it was the skinhead girl thing that worked for me big time. There was a couple that you had to be careful, because like the guys that they hung out with too, they were always itching for a fight. So you'd be like, I'm not really sure that I could do this. You know, it's like, I'd be like, look, you're going to come back. You can come back to my room. I'm like, but seriously, you have to swear to secrecy. Like, I don't want to walk into the next gig and get jumped. You know, it's like, because, you know, it was a danger. You know.
So back to my question: how many broads in one day?
In one day,
What's your total?
I don't brag and I don't kiss and tell. You know, I'm like,
I'm just gonna say it's a lot. I'm assuming
we got lucky, the Slackers, and I think I would say all the Slackers in our early days, especially. You know, if we were single, it was great.
Game on.
Now the Slackers aren't single anymore, so now it's a pretty mellow scene. You know, it just depends if somebody's single, you know, at a certain time. Then it's like it comes back, and you're like, oh yeah, I forgot we do this. You know, this happens.
Here. That's right.
Yeah. But now it's like, you know, I mean, God, you know, I had a couple of years recently, and I remember bringing girls, like, because you're like, oh, I don't know what to do. I mean, we'll go sit on the bus in Europe or something. You know, let's go sit on the bus. I don't know.
Sightsee.
And you walk into the bus, and, you know, everybody's in there, and they're making their tea after the show, and they're cooking, they're microwaving something, and It just doesn't feel like it used to feel. It used to be like, hey, come in the bus, wah, woo, These Slackers are it's a serious bunch,
You've evolved.
R is the best. R is just like, last stroke of the drum, and he's basically got his slippers waiting next to the drum kit. He's basically like, all right, cool. He kicks his shoes off, gets the slippers on, bathrobe. He's like, I'm done for the night.
I get that though,
Bless
man.
you. He's a thing to look up to. I'm like, that is great.
I gotta say, man, in my older years, that's all I want to do too, man. I gotta say.
I wish I had done it in my younger. I had moments, but I love that attitude of like, I'm here to work, I'm here to do my thing, and I don't want, actually my happiest times on tour are the times when I'm reading a lot, and like I can't wait to get back to my book after the gig.
The worst is probably where you're getting to a really good place and then you have to stop.
Oh yeah.
Are you ever thinking of other stuff while you're playing? Because I always wonder, like, if you're distracted by things sometimes, like that, for instance. Say you're really in the middle of a good book, or you just right in the middle of a good movie, and you're like, oh shit, man, I got to go do a show.
Oh yeah.
About that the whole time, or you're just like, are you like frantically like playing, like, man, I can't wait till this shit's over. So,
I can't wait. Yeah, it's like, oh man, like me and Marcus had to stop watching, the Mighty Boosh right in the middle of the episode,
Yeah.
Like, oh my God, like seriously, I need to know what happens next.
Are you strung up on any, like, now that you're home, do you watch a lot of series or TV, or what do you do?
Nothing, no. I wish. I went and like I said, I have this kind of like, this kind of extended kind of storage closet that I can have a bed in, basically. So I went and I dug out a couple of books. And I dug out all my, a couple of short stories, Dostoevsky. I brought out a little, John Dos Passos, because he wrote around World War I time. And actually, I always feel like that's a time that I'm fascinated by, and it feels like it again. Like now when you read the books, you go like, oh, I get it. This feels like now. Like, because he writes about people. But I only read a little bit of that one book, and I got a stack over here. I thought I would have more time. I don't have time.
I mean, you write songs, and they're very. I can always picture, like, you tell a story in my mind with a lot of the stuff that you sing. Have you ever considered writing a book of your own or a story of your own?
It's tough. Of course I've considered, because I write, right? So I'm a writer. So I write words. I'm always writing things. I'm writing poems. Call them poems because that's what they are. I remember when I first found Charles Bukowski, the thing that knocked me out about him, aside from the subject matter that everybody goes for, right? Because you're like, oh, wow, he's talking about getting drunk. Oh, he's talking about screwing girls, like, look at this. Oh, he got into a fight, No, the thing about Bukowski that's really cool to me, besides all the other stuff, is that he writes a short story, essentially, in the little lines. So it makes it very easy to read. You don't look at it and see all these lines in front of you, and it's very like, oh, I have to pay attention. I must have some kind of ADD or something, but whatever. Those little short lines, it's great. And it just tells a story quick, and it's done. And it's profound. He always has a nice clincher at the end, like a wrap-up line. And I think, this is the way to write a story. So now, when I try to write stories down, or I try to write any kind of a poem or something, I always think, oh yeah, remember, it's got to make the eyes feel good, like they can keep moving. Like if you wanted to just skip through it and scan it, you'd get the story just by looking at, And essentially that's what a song is. A song is like, here's a verse, what happened in that verse? You went from here to here. Okay, cool. What happens in the next verse? I don't know. We can go to the next two places, or we can go back and just reiterate what happened, and then song's over. If it's a good song, you don't need much, if it's a good one. I don't know. There's some great long ones too, but not mine.
If you could put a super group together and you could pick people from different bands, like who would you ensemble? Like, who would be your ensemble?
Oh, I don't know. I feel like all my groups that I'm in are kind of weird super groups. I feel like that's my I play with Kepi Gooley for years. I played with him. I mean,
checked out your was it the cider sessions yesterday? That was really good.
Oh, with Lauren. I mean,
she's really good, man.
Lauren, I had no idea. She was a surprise because she like literally walked into a gig I was playing, and she's very shy at first, and she sat down and started playing, and like I don't think I even realized it. I think the guy, like our old booking agent, was sitting there, and like she like left, and he went, "What a voice! Holy mackerel!" And I was like, "Yeah, she does sing good, doesn't she?"
You
it was
guys
like
got a really good chemistry together. I like that.
Yeah, well, it's pretty. We do that kind of like, I think we got that thing where like it's like that Louis Prima, Keely Smith thing where like my style is to be like kind of like I am now, like kind of gregarious and oh hey, I made a joke and maybe it's a little off color, and she's a little more proper.
She's the straight man.
Like she'll shoot me a look like, "What are you talking about? Did you just talk about cam girls? Like, what are you crazy? And I'm like, hey, come on, I don't know. I mean, I'm just talking about this is what I do. I don't know, Sometimes there's a cam girl on the computer. I don't know. Hey, sue me,
Hey, what do people do in regular society that pisses you off?
In regular society?
Yeah.
My God, what don't they do? That's the problem.
Wow, that's the best
why I'm in a band.
I've ever heard of that question.
Oh my God. No, it's tough. Actually, the thing that bothers me the most is when people don't use their own brain. They use everybody else's brain.
I hate that. I know. It seems like, unfortunately, a lot of society nowadays are followers instead of leaders. You know what I mean?
It's always been that way. People give the dumbest answer, and they think that the dumbest answer is it's the most obvious one, so it got to be right.
When you ask somebody a question and they go, "I don't know," I hate that. It drives me nuts. It's one of my pet peeves.
That's a quality. I feel like I had to learn that quality to say, when somebody asks me a question, that there's moments sometimes where I have to go, "Oh yeah, I got," honestly, I really don't know, because a lot of times I start to ponder the idea.
Well, that's the difference. I'm talking about people that don't ponder first. You're just like,
I don't know.
There's not even a thought to it.
Oh, yeah,
I'm just like, that's just saying, hey, you know what? I don't, your question, fuck off. Like.
Yeah. No, to me, the thing that bothers me is when you always go for the easy answer. You hear that wind out there?
Is that wind? That sounds like a rooster over here. Holy cow. It was like that the other night here when I was ripping stuff down. That's
wild.
In fact, the other night, I've never witnessed a wind that was like that strong before in my life. I was actually getting scared. I was ready to go in the bathroom.
We must be getting it now, that wind, because it's like that's really blowing. I mean, it happens once in a while up here.
Is everything okay?
I am in the it's like I'm in the hills over here. It's like I get all the nature comes like if it's.
Oh, but I hear it again. Holy cow.
Luckily, we don't get tornadoes or nothing. Maybe I should close the window.
Yeah, one touchdown here the other day.
Did it?
Oh yeah, Pennsylvania. We always get that stuff. In Ohio.
You guys are wild.
Yeah, don't come here if you don't like tornadoes and terrible weather.
Insane.
Seasons.
That's crazy.
Let me ask you this, sir. What's the best and worst experience you ever had playing a show?
Oh, worst experience was, we were playing somewhere in the Midwest, and it was one of those things where, some folks are like popping shit during the show, and you're like, okay, cool, it's whatever. And then, there's always a moment where it gets to that next level. I mean, not always, but there's a moment where it gets to that next level, and you're like, all right, guys, look, you gotta chill out, you gotta leave, you gotta whatever. We're like, security, could you please get these guys out of here, like whatever. Now, we used to have a singer, our old singer, Q-Max, Mark. And he was one of these guys that was almost like, you try to tell him, no, don't do that.
And he didn't want to do it. Is that right?
On the other hand, you'd be like, I mean, I'm not going to tell you not to punch this guy, But, I mean, it just turned into a full-on riot in the place. And it was like, okay, show's over, and what we didn't realize was that there was already some kind of unrest happening in this neighborhood, in the scene. We got locked in the club.
Holy shit!
Basically, the cops showed up, and they locked us in the club, and they said nobody's leaving. Whoever's in here, you got to be cool. We're putting a cop in here, and outside, we're not letting anybody outside until things cool down. And we're like, are you kidding? And they're like, no. They're like, this is it. It's where this is lockdown. There's a full-fledged riot going on. It started right here.
Holy cow, man! Seriously?
And I was like, I can't fucking believe this. We tried to sneak out the back to get our van. We took a couple of microphone stands. We like unscrewed a mic stand so that it's just like a piece of metal. You know, we're like, all right, let's go out and see if the van's okay. And finally we make it out there, and it's like, forget it. The van's got somebody slashed the tires.
Holy shit!
I forget. I don't know if a window was broken. It was one of those things where it's just like, are you kidding? Like, and I mean, there was a wreck outside. It was one of those things. It was like, we've been in a couple of those things, but that was the worst one.
Man, that's
outside the mic stands was
you got to find a makeshift weapon.
yeah, it was like, okay, what do we got?
Yourself.
Yeah. I think about that stuff now, though. Now I'm like, what do I have around here? Like, what can I, I mean, if I was living in Pennsylvania, it'd be a different story. It'd be like, I got my like AR-7 over here. I'm like, don't worry about it.
That's got to be scary as an entertainer. I mean, do you feel like this scene's changed from when you were younger to now? Is it more dangerous? Do you think about that more often?
No, there used to be a lot more fisticuffs in the scene when we joined. Whether or not that has to do with leaded gasoline, I don't know. I don't know if you're hip to that study.
I think I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, they somehow correlated leaded gas to violence, and every place that they changed leaded to unleaded, the violence went down. So when we joined the scene, I know Agent Jay talked about it once or twice, but Jay would say, well, that was kind of the charm about going to punk shows or going to these gigs.
The
like,
fear of the unknown, it can be exciting.
Dangerous, yeah. It was like you were hanging out.
What's going to happen?
They were on the edge of society, It wasn't like, and the good thing about it was that kept the riffraff to us. It kept the cheerleaders and it kept the football players out because they were like,
they're not going anywhere near.
Yeah, and that was the thing about punk too, is it scared people. So like that's actually one of the reasons I was very attracted to punk. Was because I was always in trouble with people. I was always fighting. I was always, I'm not a violent person.
I was gonna say, man, you seem like such a easygoing dude. I can't even imagine like that being the case. Just
I didn't even know
shit with you, probably. I would imagine.
I didn't know that fighting was fighting when I was a kid. I thought fighting was put 'em up, and everybody stands in a circle. Yeah. I didn't know that like grappling in the hallways and like slamming somebody's head into a locker was considered a fight. I just thought that was life, And so my parents started to notice that I came home with like a black eye or, that I was real quiet some days, and they'd be like, what's going on? Nothing, Finally, they got a note in that really hurt somebody. No, you didn't tell anybody? And I'm like, man, I don't know. I don't think nothing of it. It's just like something happened,
Yeah.
And they were like, you have to tell us. You get us in trouble, and you're gonna get in trouble. Mm-hmm. And so then they sent me to a martial arts class.
Oh yeah.
It was like they were, like they send you like an anger management class or something.
Yeah.
They're like, look. Yeah, they're like, you got to get it out or something. I'm telling you, I'm not an angry person.
I know you're not, man.
They just thought, well, I don't know, maybe this kid wants to fight. Send him to a place where they kick his ass every week. And I was like, oh, God. I'm like, great. I'm like, this just life went from, it goes from bad to weird, Anyway, so that was good. I mean, it was actually good for me. That was actually good because I needed the exercise. And I needed to get my ass kicked by this chick who was a brand new cop. Yeah,
So you know Cobra Kai now is what you're telling me.
the guy who was the teacher, who was like the sensei in the joint. He was cool. I think he was like a military guy, but he had this girlfriend that was a cop, and she was the one that he'd put you in the ring and say, okay, fight her, and you'd be like, all right. Like, the first time you go in, and you're like, all right, look, I'm not gonna like hit this girl, and then she like, bam, and she's like, bop, and like kicks you across the room, and then the next time you go in, you're like, I gotta really fight you, I guess, and then, yeah, every time she'd kick your ass. She was badass.
Dang.
Yeah, I forget if she was Italian or Puerto Rican, but she was like one of these girls that you'd be like if you saw her on the street, you'd be like, yeah, she's kind of hot, kind of like a little like, definitely a little rough and tumble.
Did you ever try to follow up and see what became of her? I'd be curious.
Oh no, she probably became the best ass kicker cop.
That's what I'm saying. She's probably
I would never want to run into her out on the street.
Don't speed through there.
Dangerous.
Wait, let me moving on, dude. Let me. What's the best piece of advice anybody has ever given you?
I've had a couple of good ones. That sometimes I wonder if the advice was good at the time, and then where it led was not. Actually, I was just thinking about it because I rode my bike. I rode a bike. I didn't ride my bike. A very nice bike. I rode back from my sister's place last night, and as I was riding, I thought about an interview I heard with Les Paul many years ago. And it was one of those things you're listening on the radio, and you're like, wow, this guy's really interesting. I like, this guy's a New Yorker. Like, you hear his accent or whatever. You're like, oh, this guy's cool. I like whatever. I can't remember what. I don't even know. Les Paul, he had this funny accent. It wasn't New York. It was very old-timey. It was one of these accents that does not sound like it's from now. Let's just put it that way. And I listened to it, and suddenly I discover, oh, it's Les Paul. Well, I put everything aside, and I continue listening to this interview. I think I was late for work. All this stuff. And the last question was, have you got any advice for young musicians? And Les Paul goes, yeah, don't hang around with negative people. He goes, if you have negative people around, he's like, really? He's like, just let them loose, cut them loose. He's like, I don't care if it's family, if it's the best guy, it's like these negative people, they don't have anything to offer, and they're just going to drag you down. And I remember thinking, God, that's mean to say, because I know a lot of negative people, and I might even consider myself to be kind of negative. I'm a little cynical, right? And I thought, God, Les Paul, I was like, I don't really know what to make of that. But of course, it stuck with me because it was a thinking point. And I have to say that over the years, I've gone back to that. Don't waste your time with negative people. Yes, it's absolutely true. It's absolutely true. Negativity and these people that are like, oh, that'll never work. Or who do you think you are, man? What do you think? You think that's cool? What do you think? You're saying something? You must think you're really a hot piece of shit, huh? That's negative people. And those people, they got nothing to offer to people like creative people like us, we're trying to do something,
See, it took me 20 years to probably learn that lesson, man, because like sometimes I'm such a nice dude to a fault where I just let people get away with stuff that I know is in fact probably damaging.
Yeah.
It took me years and years. Like, if I'd have heard that like you, I'd been like, man, what a dick. Like, how do you know? But now, whenever you have people emotionally vampire, like, they just suck the energy out of you.
Yeah.
You get to a point where you're like, I can't live like this no more. I have to, no matter what the history is or how much you love them or care about them, they gotta go away, or else that's you or them. So, I mean, I couldn't agree more. That's definitely profound piece of, and I could contest to it, man. That's definitely true. At least,
yeah.
For me, and I know you. That's perfect. That's a great one.
I have moments where I go back and there were junctures in my life where I had maybe played a certain song or played a certain style, and people would go, "What are you doing? What is that?" Or like, I don't know, and kind of like dismiss it. And years later, I go back, and the same thing comes up, the same song, or I'm talking to the person, they go like, hey, how come you never followed up on that thing? Like, that was cool. Like, you should have done that. You know? Or like, I'll play a song and I realize I totally left some things behind because people made me feel like they were stupid. Or, you know, they made me feel stupid.
I think
And
that's just all jealousy, though, too. You know.
I don't know what it is. Yeah, maybe. I really like to believe that people are better than that. But so it's kind of discerning negativity and discerning when you're being filled with self-doubt, because of course I'm not going to blame that on other people too. Only, I mean, it also fueled my own self-doubt. You know, I have to be my own best critic. I have to be, otherwise I just think everything I shit is gold, right? I mean, it's not. But it's one of those things. It's a dance, and it's definitely trying to discern where the negativity is and be like, okay, push that away. We don't need that. You know.
What's one thing you would stockpile if you found out they weren't going to make it anymore?
Stop. These are good. I like these questions.
I was trying to put a lot of thought into it because, like, I love talking to you, and I don't want to ask the same old bullshit because I know you've did this a million times, and it's got to be boring for you. And people ask the same old shit, you know.
Man, you know, if there was such, like, it's for me, like I probably hang out with the preppers a lot. You know, when it comes to like canned goods, you know. To me, it's like things like, you know, smoked oysters in a can, or a certain brand of sardines. You know, if they were like, that's it, we're not making the sardines packed in olive oil anymore. I'm sorry, Brunswick is discontinuing sardines in olive oil. I'd be like, what?
Mind blown.
Yeah, I'd go to the I'd literally go to the supermarket. I would buy $1,000 worth of sardines. I'd be like, well, that's it. They're just going to live in my closet for as long as it takes, you know. You know,
When I was a kid,
I'm an eater. You know?
I wish I would have did that with Quisp cereal when I was a kid, man. I'd still be eating that shit.
But exactly, right? It's those little things.
It's just good memories. Like, it's something silly like that could like take you back to like a good place in time. You know what I mean?
Oh, I know. I ate something the other day that I can't remember what it was, but it brought back that feeling, that like, oh, that beautiful.
Like a comfort.
It's so good. It really does exist. And with food, it's something that's so primal. You know, it's something that we all remember from, like, you know, cooking. Oh, you know what it was? I was telling a friend of mine or a relative. I was telling somebody how to make tomato sauce. They were like, "Call Vic." Oh, you know what it is? It's my Irish side of the family. It's by, you know, I don't know. It's
I'm
not
part Irish as well.
It's not blood relatives, but it's, you know, it's there. So they called me up. Ask Vic how to make tomato sauce. He knows how to make spaghetti sauce. And I was like, oh yeah, sure. So I start writing, and I told them the recipe. I always make my sauce. I always make without meat. It's just of my nature.
Is this a secret recipe, or can you share that with me when we're done?
It's a very simple recipe, but it's like I explained to him. I said it's more of a dance than a recipe. You know, it's like all good recipes. When I was taught how to make curry by an Indian lady, I used to go eat at this Indian place. It was a takeout joint, actually, in a gas station in New York. And I sat in there and I asked her, how do you make curry? You know? And she says, oh, well, you know, it is very simple. You start with a little olive oil in the bottom and with some garlic. And I was like, oh, you mean it's just like making Italian food? She's like, you know, a little oil and garlic starts. Well, maybe maybe she used a different kind of oil. But essentially it was the same process. Then you take the onions and you brown them. And then you do this and you put this together. And she said, you know, it's not a recipe, but it's it's the dance, basically. So this guy, he asked me, he says, so what do I do about the meat? Should I put meat in? And I said, you know, it's funny. I said, for me, it's the oils, the olive oil and stuff like that gets the flavor around the palate. I said, but when I was a kid, I do remember my mother used to put sausages in the sauce. I said that she would do that sometimes. And I remember going into the fridge, and when it was in there for a day or two or whatever, going in and grabbing a cold piece of sausage out of the sauce. And when I think about that sensation, that that thing in my mind, I mean, that will forever be. That's one of those moments where you're like, oh my God, like you're not gonna get better than that. You know,
Yeah, especially if it's from somebody that's like passed away. Like my great grandma used to make root beer, but it was homemade.
really,
It would take like 3-4 months just to make like a 6-pack.
wow.
I wish I could taste that shit again, man. Like I've never tasted anything that even comes close.
Yeah.
But I don't even know anybody that could do that anymore. If I wish I could do it, because like most of the time you'd make like 24 and they'd explode. And like, you'd make 24 to kind of get a 6-pack. So man, just to have a sip of it again would probably, oh, it's amazing.
That's those things.
Guy, so I think about that kind of stuff. So
You know, I'm a food. I live through my mouth, through my stomach. You know, that's where I live. And so, like, yeah, my great grandma. Actually, I was going through stuff with my sister the other day, and she found a card from my great grandmother.
oh,
My great grandmother was French, but had grown up in Venezuela. She spoke multitudes of languages. She spoke
wow.
Italian, French, Yiddish, because she worked in the garment district. Yeah, she's everything. Spanish, because she grew up in Venezuela. But she made a kind of rice pudding that the family, all my distant cousins and aunts and everybody tries to make this rice pudding. That's
Can't mimic it. Perfect, right?
yeah. One of the cousins finally was like, "I got it. I did it." Yeah, and they were like, "You got to try it. You got to try it. You got to try it. Tell me if it's it." You know, and people were like, "Oh yeah, you may have got it. You may have been." Yeah. It's her rice pudding and it's my grandmother's cheesecake.
Oh, dude, you're making me hungry for sure.
Yeah, neither of which I eat anymore because now I don't eat dairy anymore. I mean, believe me, if they showed up with that rice pudding, I would probably just risk the stomach ache.
You're making Xtina hungry over here. She's working at home now. Her mom used to make it. She's over there going, oh.
I mean, right. You know, rice pudding I still do because I end up with extra rice. I make it with coconut milk or almond milk.
I never tried that. I have to try that.
Yeah. I mean, sometimes I even just make it like a hot cereal.
I'm still super interested in Vic's, sauce recipe. That's what I'm in.
Oh yeah, the sauce.
You're gonna have to give that to me, dude. I have to have that.
It's no secret. It's really, I'm telling you, it's the same thing. Like I could tell you how to play ska. I could tell you how to play blues.
You can tell me how to make sauce.
Yeah, I give you the chords, but it's up to you to play it. It's the same thing. Yeah. And I tell you, because I make mine, it comes out the way I make it. It's my taste. My mother, my grandmother, they both made great sauce. They're both the ones that taught me. They both made different ones, and mine is different. So,
I'm surely gonna have to get that when we're done because you're making me hungry for that. But anyway, I got a couple more for you, dude. I don't want to keep you all day. I know you're, but I'm surely having a good time.
It's good stuff to talk about.
Let me ask you this. What's one thing that you've tried in your life that you will never absolutely try again? Be food or whether it be, anything, really.
What is something I've tried in my life I never tried?
Be like menage a trois. I don't know.
Oh, there's a few of them. Relationships are tough. Those are tough ones. I used to say that I wouldn't do a long-distance relationship again, because I had a couple of bad experiences with that, but I find myself doing that. I think that those are things, whether you like it or not, you find yourself. I mean, now my whole life is a long-distance relationship, so much for that idea.
I had a bad experience with that. Like the chick was living in like Ohio, and then she was seeing me, but then in Ohio seeing some other dude.
Oh, of course.
She said that she was pregnant with my kid, which never even happened. So,
oh God,
please, no long distance relationships.
That's a good one. Yeah.
Oh, that was probably the sanest thing that's happened to me. I should write a book, dude. You could ask her. It's great.
Oh.
She's the first good broad I ever found in 20-some years. So.
Jeez.
I've been through the mill, brother. But
hope you not try again. One time I got I ran into these guys that were doing auto body out of their trunk of their car. They had their tools, and they had the chemicals, and they had the paste, the compound. I guess they were working in an auto body shop. They had 4 out of the 5 necessary items to finish the job. But they said, hey, look, we see you got this big dent on the side of your car, which was true. I had gotten hit by a taxi cab. And I was like, yeah, you're right, actually. I got this big dent on the side of my car. Look, they said $100, we'll fix it up for you. I'm like, $100? I'm like, I'm here. I'm working on the street anyway. I got the car parked. I'm like, sure, get your tools and fix it, $100. Yeah, I'll never do that again. I'm going to have a serious interview with them to say, okay, what have you got? Show me the tools. Show me the compound. Have you got the compound fixer? Have you got the thing that makes it go from gummy to hard?
Oh.
Because I ended up with a big, it was like a splotch of chewing gum on the side of my car.
Oh, no.
That never dried, that remained there for the next year, because of course I had spent $100 I was going to spend fixing the dent, which I only did because it was my mother's old car, and I felt embarrassed because she would look at it and go really? And I'd be like, oh God, Finally, I have to. I go over to my dad's place to visit, and my dad's like, I mean, are you crazy with this thing? You got this ugly thing on your car. He's like, look. He's like, I'll show you how to fix it, all right? And he gets something out of the garage, and he slaps all this stuff on it, and it makes it hard. It was like a Bondo kind of a thing, And I don't know what it was, but it made it. And he was like, here's some sandpaper. He's like, now do something productive with your life for once, instead of all this music crap. And get over there and sand the side of that car for the next 6 hours, and you're going to have a car that looks like a car again. He's like, well, go to the hardware store, we'll get some paint that matches your door, and you'll have a door again. And I was like, and I sat out there, like that. Let me tell you, my father was a genius when it came to this meditation of doing something simple, like Karate Kid,
Yeah.
I remember one time I had to get the brakes off my car. My brakes were frozen, the brake drums. I had this big old Ford from the 70s. And I'm like, it's frozen. I'm like, the thing, it's rusted on. It's the things are all frozen on. It's it. And my dad goes, you don't know nothing. You never worked on cars. And he goes out with a big hammer, and he hits it. Bang, bang, bang. And I said, well, it's not moving. He goes, look, you sit out here, you do that for about 4 hours, that thing's going to come off.
Wow.
And I was like,
that's patience, man.
I go out there and I hit it. I'm like, nah. Just out of spite to show the kind of attitude that he had. He went outside and he said, bang, bang, bang. And he sat there, for about 4 hours. And I'm like, he's crazy. I come back out after I hear it. He's got the thing off. He goes seriously, he did it just to show me up. Which is this is lucky because this is one of the few things I've inherited is that same defiant attitude. You tell me I can't do it, I'll work for 20 years to do it. That's the reason the Slackers are still going. You know what I mean? But it's like I learned a lesson that day. He taught me a lesson. I'm telling the story. 20 years, 30 years later, I'm telling the story. This was my father showing me. If you bang a hammer into a rusted piece of metal for hours and hours and hours, something will happen.
There's kind of an underlying thing to that to apply to life too, man. I mean, that's pretty good advice all around.
Yeah, it's good and bad. I mean, I've also banged my head against the wall for years and been like, was that a good idea?
Hey, what's one surefire way to make you laugh? Something you can't control.
Ask me these questions, Paul.
That's good. Okay, last question, man. Like I said, you were kind enough to way longer than I anticipated. I loved every second of it, man. You are always been an inspiration to me, and you always will be. I love you. You're one of my favorite people in the world. But let me ask you this last question, sir. What's one thing that you enjoy doing that doesn't pertain to music?
Oh, one thing I enjoy doing? Oh, well, you know already that I enjoy cooking, so that's I think that goes without saying. Now, what do I enjoy doing outside of music? A lot of the things I'm lucky that I enjoy that go along with the job. I love driving, I love driving into the middle of nowhere with nothing in front of me, wondering where it's going to lead. That's one of those things. And I'd love the same with walking. And I like same thing with riding a bike. If I like last night, my sister's place is pretty far. It's a good 10 miles or something away from. No, maybe not 10. It's a few miles away. But I thought, I don't know. I never rode a bike there or back. I love that. That's something that I really do like. I do like going into the empty abyss of curiosity. You know, I like
most
walking.
people would be afraid of that. Like you embrace the unknown.
I do. One time I was in Turkey. I was in Istanbul, and we were there.
Constantinople.
Yeah. We were there only for a few hours, and I went walking around because all the slackers, of course, we have to do our things. Everybody was going to dinner, and I said, "Look, I'm not going to go eat. I'm going to go eat later after the show. And right now, I'm in Istanbul for 2 hours. I'm going to walk around everywhere I can possibly walk." And I walked across this, I walked across that, I hop a fence, and I cross a little highway, and suddenly I'm in like the worst neighborhood that I could imagine. And, I mean, you know when you feel it, and you're just like,
uh-oh.
And so I'm like, all right, cool. I'm like, be cool, man. I'm like, you got it. I'm like, I'm going to see somebody. I know who I'm going there. I'm looking at the place. I'm thinking, yeah, cool. I got to make it up in my head, act, method acting, right? I'm like, cool. Yeah, I got it. I'm walking the next block. I'm like 2 blocks away. I'm like, cool. I got that place. I'm looking at that place. I take out this little camera that I got. I got a Super 8 camera at the time. I take it out and I kind of like, I start filming a little something because I'm like, this is a cool block. I'm like, I just want to get a little of this. And I'm like looking around. Nobody's really watching me. I'm like, I'm good. Suddenly, I turn a corner. Both my arms go up. There's 2 cops on either side of me. They both got my arms. One of them's got the camera. And they're like, blah, 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 talking to me. I'm like, look, and I'm an American. I'm an American. I'm like, I'm not from here. They're like, no, blah, 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 blah. Then I said, I only speak English. I don't speak Turkish. One of the guys like, who are you? What are you doing? What are you doing here? What is this? What da da? And they're like, he's Russian. He's Russian. We know he's Russian. Look at camera. And I was like, no, I'm an American. They're like, what are you doing in this neighborhood? There is no reason for you to be in the neighborhood. Blah 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 blah. You're not American. You are Russian. And I was like, no. I was like, look, I'm from New York. I pull out my my license. I got my license out, because they want to see my ID. And they look at me, New York, like that. They things back. They do this. They say, "There's the entrance. Go now. Go. There is the exit. Go now." I had walked into a neighborhood. Basically, when I told the people I went back to the gig, I told the promoter. The promoter went pale. He was
my God.
He's like, you did what? You went there? He's like, you can't go there. He's like, that's like off limits for the whole city. That's like you walked into the worst neighborhood. That's literally fenced off, for a reason, Vic. And I was like, oh, I didn't know. I just thought that it was a fence on the highway like they do in England or whatever. And you're like, I want to go there. I hop the fence, This is my nature. My nature drags me to the worst of all possible neighborhoods, But that's what I like. That's what I like to do. I walk, I wander, I drive. It's good for me.
Well, there you have it, folks. A musician, wanderer, legend, Vic Ruggiero.
Well, thank you, Paul. You're too kind to me. You make my insanity sound like it makes some kind of sense,
Oh, that's an honor, sir. Hey, you don't have time to play a song or
I'm coming to say hi. Hey, Vic. How you
doing? Hey, what's up?
I'm working, but I'd pop in and say hi.
Hello there. Sometimes when I'm broadcasting, I'm just like, I don't know. I need to find a place to have a moment, on tour or whatever. I go into some back alley somewhere. I used to talk to my therapist. Anytime we could do a FaceTime call, she was like, well, we can do FaceTime. I'll do a FaceTime therapy session. And she'd be like, Vic, where the hell are you? You know, and I'd be like, I don't know, I'm in this alleyway in this, I don't know, this club in, in Leeds, in England or whatever. And she'd be like, what? And I turn the phone, I'd be like, see, I'm like, it's pretty cool, huh? She'd be like, this is definitely interesting.
That's awesome, man.
Yeah.
You can't play a song or nothing for me real fast, could you?
What do you want me to play?
Do you have that means, or I don't want to bug you if you don't. I mean.
No, I brought the guitar. I actually went to go grab it before because I
have tons of requests, but it's all more about less about what you want to play, I guess. I'd like to hear something solo Vic and something Slackers if that's possible. I like parking lot.
Parking lot? Yeah, I can play parking lot.
Would you be offended if I sing along?
Yeah, I don't mind.
Or Same Every Day, that'd be good too.
Same Every Day. It's funny because for a minute there, I thought Same Every Day would be a good one for my life here. But as I've discovered after the first week, no, nothing's been the same every day. Everything's been I am not a man of routines. I have to tell you that.
I thought since we'd be home at this quarantine, I'd have a problem like getting bored. But man, I've been nothing but busy, man. Like I keep finding projects for me to do. So I interview cool cats like you, man. We talked to Laura Jane Grace yesterday from her bathroom. That was awesome.
That's awesome.
Yeah, dude, we've been having a lot of fun here. I mean, I got more time than I even know what to do with, and it's actually kind of been a blast. I'm used to lifting furniture for a living and ripping my body and shit up. So like, I'm all healed now, and now I'm like, wow, this is great. I don't have to lift shit every day.
That's what I'm doing for my sister. Is I'm moving furniture because, of course, everything lines up at the worst times. She gets out of
our refrigerator went out. We just had to have somebody come in today. They're not even wearing a mask or anything. And I'm like, what the fuck, dude? Seriously? I'm like, we're in the middle of a global pandemic and you guys here with no mask or anything.
That's the thing. My sister gets out of the hospital. She's like literally walking around with an oxygen tank still, right? And she goes, I got to move. And I go, what do you mean you got to move? I said, everything's in pandemic. Everything's like frozen. She goes, not everybody. She's like, the banks aren't. She's like, and basically my loan thing runs out like, in 3 days. And if I don't do it, I got to reapply. Everybody's got to reapply all this stuff. They're like, the people who are going to move in want to move in. Da, da, da. I was like, you got to be fucking kidding me. And she's like, yeah. She's like, I need to hire a moving company in a few days, and then I need to move all this stuff. Can you come over here and help me get all this stuff downstairs?
What a terrible time for that.
Yeah, so I'm like, okay. I'm like, well, look, you stay over there and you rest. You do little things. You want to wrap up knickknacks, but just you chill out.
Yeah, absolutely.
I was like, you tell me what to move. Me and this, and her guy and a couple of other people are going to drop in. What's good is, I guess now her doctor cleared her in the sense that for being contagious. They said basically, so long as you're not coughing up loogies on everybody, they're like basically, if you keep it cool, you're at the stage now where we don't consider you to be high risk contagious. So I'm like, okay. And I mean, anyway, I feel like I've been around it even from before we knew what it was.
Yeah, it's funny you say it, dude, because I feel like back in was it December?
Yeah.
I feel like I had it already before anybody even knew what the hell it was going on. I was sick for like almost 2 months. And like the first couple weeks, like I was working through it, and then my buddy at work got it. We felt the same way. We couldn't get rid of it. Like we would just pour sweat. I had to sleep up at night because I felt like I was drowning. Like I couldn't. Like if I laid in my bed, I would have drowned.
Yeah.
And I couldn't motivate myself to do anything. If I did the slightest little thing, I would just pour sweat, and I felt like I was going to pass out. And I would sweat from the time I got up to the time I went to bed. Headache. I felt lousy. It took almost 2 months to get back to normal. I think I might have had this shit already.
You probably had it and fought it off. That's what most people are going to get. I never get a fever, and I had 2 incidents.
I had a fever for almost 3 weeks. Like I couldn't get rid of it.
Oh yeah.
it would spike. Like I'd be okay for a little bit, and it would spike, and I'd be okay for a little bit, spike, and it went on for like 3 weeks.
Yeah.
Now I took my month to get the shit to break out of my chest because normally I get seasonal bronchitis, and in about a week I'm from the shit out. This shit didn't want to come out. It took like a month to even start to come out. Like, yeah, I think I might have got the shit already.
Yeah.
But they're saying around here, I don't know if it's like we're there, but these next 2 weeks were supposed to be really, really bad. So
Well,
hopefully that's the worst before the best, you know?
that's the thing is that they say all the people that have it and don't know they have it.
That's how it's the dangerous part, yeah.
Yeah. In New York over here, they did a thing where they said they got like 200 people the past week. They said like 200 people a day are dying at home or something like that. And they can't tell if it's people. This I just heard. I didn't read it. But anyway, some number of people are dying at home. And the problem is that they don't know if they're dying from this or they're dying from something else. But it's like they're not in the hospitals. They're not getting into the hospitals. You know, some people aren't realizing how serious it is. Other people are like, well, sorry, we can't take people. You don't look that bad right now.
Well, not only that, I heard that you by the time you start to develop symptoms, it's a lot of the time it's too late. It's like,
yeah,
it's like well, I mean, elderly people and other people, like people that have I have a compromised immune system. That's why I'm freaked out about it. But for those kind of people, by the time they start to recognize symptoms, it's
Well, we
the
have a guy.
kind of treatment. So,
I don't know a guy, this guy personally, but he's a guy, a bike messenger guy that we know, and he's a friend of a friend, and he died in 3 days.
oh my God.
It was. Well, what happened to him? They're like, it's like, was he sick? Was he what? It's like, no, he's just a guy. He was just a guy that got it, and it hit him real hard, and in 3 days, poof. You're like,
I can't believe that, man. That's what scares me. Like now it's going to animals. Like I mean, attacking every living thing on Earth. I'm getting a little freaked out about it. I mean,
hey, it happens. That's the thing. You can't fight Mother Nature. You know, it's like it happens once in a while.
I see if people would listen to it, like stay the fuck inside. Like I see all these people going to watch the medical ship come in. There's like hundreds of people out there. Like you never seen a fucking boat before. Like seriously, people in the parks. There's 200-300 people in the park. It's nice out, and I'm like, that's the killer. I think when it's nice out, everybody's like, oh, I could fucking sneak out and be out for a while, and then you have hundreds of other people with the same mentality, and before you know it, everybody's fucking out. So, I mean,
Yeah, the thing is, if you stay away from people, go for a walk in the park, but stay the fuck away from people.
Yeah, I don't see how hard it is, man. I honestly think if people listen, we would have been out of this shit a lot earlier. But there's too much freedom.
Our illustrious, orange man up there has been like, it doesn't exist. Nah, we're gonna pick they're back by Easter. We're gonna see the churches packed with people. You're like, that's actually the last thing that you should be trying to do.
I don't get that, man. They just busted that one preacher telling her congregation to come to church. Like, why don't you just fucking bury them outside in the back while you're at it? Like, if you gave a shit about your church, would you have your congregation come and like gather when in the middle of a fucking pandemic?
Oh, they're ridiculous.
They just want that fucking collection plate, dude. That's all they're worried about.
You know what? I mean, in some ways, it's like, sure, you guys, you want to get together? Hey, go ahead, guys. Go ahead.
There's like 14 states that already said it's fine for to congregate. That's irresponsible, man. I'm a dude. I believe in God, but I don't think you should be going to fucking church right now. I don't think
Nah, people got.
idea.
Anyway, I don't know.
Take that. Just take that.
People make their choices.
Well, I think you got these people too. It's like God will protect me if I go to church. Let's be realistic here. I mean,
I know.
even he's probably like, yeah, that's probably not going to happen. Sorry.
That's what
Anyway,
I have. There's a saying amongst some people I know. It says, God does for you what you can't do for yourself. But he's not going to do for you things that you can do for yourself.
Yeah,
right?
absolutely.
And I mean, he, she, like God will not do things for you that you can do for yourself. So if you're a dumbass.
Yeah, that's how I feel.
They're not just going to be like, oh, hey, here you go. I'm going to just pick you out of, walking through traffic. You got to have the judgment. But the things you can't do for yourself, you have to trust that there's a beautiful higher power that has your back. Okay, I believe I could dig that.
I mean, if you believe like everybody else by that rationale, my guardian angel's probably fucking exhausted by now. I mean, like, I gotta get some other dudes. This guy. Oh.
All right, let's see. Let me play this tune because I actually got to get back out of here.
Thank you. I appreciate anything you could do.
All right, let's see. Is the sound good on this? I never do this.
Yeah. I'm actually shocked at how good it is.
Yeah. I'm used to using the iPhone these days, you know.
This actually don't work out too bad. I'm surprised.
They got a great microphone on that
I
thing.
actually have lapel mics I plug in to do our show, and they work out really, really good. But I don't know for music if that would be the best. She's a singer, and she's saying no, that wouldn't work out good at all.
Nah. All right. Let me. I'll introduce the song because it's apropos for the moment. I remember when I used to sit in my the parking lot of my mother's place. There's this apartment building, and I used to look up at all the windows in our building, her building, and all the buildings around, and I would see all the people sitting in there, and I would think to myself, God, I'm so glad I'm not in one of those little windows.
That's awesome. I wish you'd do like a storytellers like this. I'd love to hear your like thoughts behind all these songs.
Yeah, but it's true. And now, okay, we're stuck in our little windows. It's all right. I hope it's all right. Things fall to pieces, and I'm happy about it. Happy about it. Happy about it. Hear the people screaming in their respective houses. Respective houses. Respective mouses. I don't need to die in the field of green, no. No, I don't really care a lot. I don't know exactly what you're seeing, but I'm at peace in your parking lot. I don't wish for summertime, waiting for sunshine. I like the nighttime, I see my own light there inside the blue and rising summer moonlight. Or blinking blue light in your room, right? I don't need to die for your castle wall or tears you cry for Camelot. But I would be surprised if I cared at all, 'cause I'm at peace in your parking lot. Set your Moses on mountains high, the ravens cry nevermore. Point my feet at some grand ravine, but I see more in your dressing drawer. Should I state my reason just to have you hate me? You're so irate, man. You're so exterior. If you should discover them, please remember that I'm a member of nothing in particular. I didn't show for your royal grace or wars on economic thought. No, I wouldn't show just to run your race, man. I'm at peace in your parking lot. So father loses everything he worked his life for, chalk another up to experience. Thoughtlessly and breathless falls the grand appearance. And keep aware of who's moving near us. I don't need to die in his field of green. No, I don't really care a lot. Would it be so wrong just to say that all I want is peace in your parking lot? I'm at peace in your parking lot. I'm at peace in your parking lot. I'm at peace in your parking lot.
Yeah! That's what I'm talking about.
All right,
Vic,
thanks,
thank
man.
you so much,
Yeah,
brother. I love
that's-
you. Be safe. Thank you so much for this, sir. And I'm sure I'll be bugging you again at some time. So, brother,
Yeah, right on.
hey, anytime you feel like chatting, hit me up, man.
Yeah, thanks
Peace
a
and
lot,
love,
dude. Stay well, man. Say hi. Hello, Pittsburgh.
Back